All right, welcome back. Anti-interviews here with another one. Today we are here with rapper producer out of Tampa, Florida, Tampa Bay, Florida, I should say, Delete Glitch. How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm vertical, or I'm sitting right now, but I'm generally vertical. I'm above the dirt. We're good. We're good. Thank you for having me, bro. It's really cool to get to be on here.
Absolutely, I appreciate you taking the time out. Um, you've been on like a hell of a run this year, like dropping a lot of different projects of your own, solo wise, and then you have the From the Tray project as well that I want to get into later. But yeah, I just want to acknowledge that you've been on a super consistent run so far this year. What is Did you set out to have this many projects this year, or did it kind of just shake out that way?
No, no. I really thought I was gonna take a. I mean, I knew I was gonna be working, but I really thought this year was a breather year because I'd done a couple things last year between the three with the tray and then with creature of habit. I kind of was like, okay, like let me recalibrate. I had something in the tuck that I ended up deciding to reapproach, something that I'm still working on actually right now. um, and then stuff just kind of falls into place. Head size wall dents just kind of started coming together at a faster rate than I thought. um, the tray stuff, we just, once your foot is to the pedal like that and it's like open road, it's like, why slow down? This is working. Like, let's strike while the iron is hot, I guess. And so, yeah, no, I've just been, I mean, it's a blessing to get to be so busy, but no, it was not the intent in any way.
Gotcha. And I do definitely want to get into those albums more in depth, but I do want to talk about just you as an artist for a little bit. Just firstly, I do want to talk about or inquire about your upbringing in Tampa Bay and how that was what that was like for you, and where specifically did hip hop start playing a role in your life, and when did you decide it was something you wanted or even needed to be a part of?
Words. So I actually am taking a great pleasure in the distinction. I was brought up in Little Rock, Arkansas. So a big like Tampa, I came here when I was thir 14. 14. I just turned 14 the week prior. So like I went through like late middle school and all high school in Tampa, so a lot of like formative years in Tampa. But I still feel like Arkansas and Little Rock is really like what kind of raised me. Um, so answering the question, but in the regards of that, I guess I don't know. I mean, growing up in Little Rock, there was it was kind of it's a small town kind of deal. So it's really, I mean, it's the big city of the small town, but it's a small big city, I guess. And so a lot of people know each other. And so there was a lot of like, growing up in the neighborhood, you go out and you walk down to the basketball court, or there's the pool, or the this or that, and I would spend a lot of time. I would go play basketball or go do this or that, and I was just the youngest kid in the neighborhood, so I had the privilege of being around a lot of older kids who would just I kind of through osmosis took in a lot of their interests. So I just remember um, like Busta Rhymes and like MF Doom and like Wu Tang and early like Lupe Fiasco were all, and funny enough, actually, Kevin Gates was a big, people in my neighborhood love Kevin Gates. So those were the first five that I just remember really like, oddly enough, you have all these different kids and they all have their taste and they're all kind of coming together like this. But so I just kind of absorbed taste through just people that I was around. And then I've always been a person that when I have an interest, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna learn everything about this thing. You know what I mean? I'm gonna just really dive in. And so I did, and I always really liked writing. And I remember songwriting since I was super young, not really in any one direction, but just writing stuff in general, like poetry and stuff like that. And so eventually I started in like middle school writing like proper like raps, because we would like all rap. I played on the basketball team, and we would all like cipher and stuff in the locker room. And so I was back pocketing. I was not freestyling. I'm back pocketing verses. And so you start building up, and then you have a notebook. And then I moved to Florida, and in high school, it just became one of those things where you get around people, because I guess I've always just had older friends. So even then, I like get around people who were kind of doing it as well, and they had like a studio set up. So it's like, okay, cool. Like we'll start recording some stuff, kind of as fun, and then it just becomes a habit. It's like biting your nails. It's like, damn, well, same thing. We're on this open highway. Like, why stop? And yeah, so it's just being around, I guess, the right people in the right place. And yeah, I love the shit, and I wanted to do it, and um, it's an honor to do it, even for at the scope I'm at. It's just I enjoy it. I guess that's an answer.
No, absolutely, definitely, it definitely is an answer. I was a little fascinated by the Kevin Gates poll.
Bro, I for whatever reason he's just big in Arkansas, and I feel like you'll if now that I say it, if he goes on tour again, check, there will be a Little Rock date, and he just sells out. He's just big, and I mean, I guess it makes sense. It's like Southern, but yeah, no, he was just like that was the guy, and so he's just kind of inescapable. Him, as far as that sphere, him like Gucci Mane, like Lil Wayne, like because this is the aughts, so like this mixtape Wayne. Um, yeah, no, I don't know. People just dug him there, so I've listened to a lot of Kevin Gates in my lifetime.
That's really interesting. I think the era of Kevin Gates that you're referring to, and the era of Kevin Gates that most people are like familiar with in terms of like his internet antics and like his meme lore,
Oh yeah,
it definitely causes there's a little bit of a differentiation there.
yeah, no, not quite peak horny Kevin Gates. Although I'm sure it was there, but I was young enough to where it wasn't connecting on that level. It's just this is what we listen to. This.
Getting back into yourself, I'm curious where the name Deleteeglitch came from. I feel like this is a super like basic interview question, but I
Oh
saw
no.
your Bandcamp bio and your Instagram bio for that matter, and it says the walking error, and I figured that had some type of correlation to your name in some way.
Bro, it's such a fun and inconsequential, or not inconsequential, but anticlimactic story. But I think it's so anticlimactic that it like kind of horseshoes into I enjoy. So I was also in middle school. I was real good at Counter Strike, bro. Like I was real good at Counter Strike. Um, I tried playing again recently. I'm ass now. I'm not real good anymore. They're too good now. But my name on Counter Strike was Virus. And I just remember when I started recording stuff and I decided to start putting stuff on SoundCloud. Um, Originally I was just gonna stick with Virus, but then for some reason I was just like, nah, like I need something. No, I can't coast off this. So I was like, Virus, okay, Glitch. And so originally I was just riding with Glitch. Well, uh, then SEO stuff comes into play, right? Because there's a lot of Glitch on Spotify or on SoundCloud. There's a million people under that name, and so like most of my friends, like I'm Glitch, but I was like, okay. So I added Delete because I mean, I guess the idea with Glitch is like, oh, like this glitch in the system, like kind of do like breaking through, but also working in my own way and not necessarily going against the current, I guess, in a sense. Um, and then Deleteeglitch, like I don't know, I was just like, oh, a glitch of I don't know. Like I said, it's a little bit anticlimactic, but that's just where I wound up. And then with the walking air, that was just kind of something I found myself like saying at the top of songs, right? Like when the little shit talk portion before the verse starts, you know, walking air, and then I said it once. I was like, okay, that's kind of nice. Like, and then it almost is like a tick. You know what I mean? All right, we're gonna set it off. So it's like a pseudonym. For a minute, I thought about producing under that name, like having a producer name and an artist name. I could probably still tackle that at some point, do like a proper producer project as that, but it just like with anything else, it just kind of stuck. Like, okay, that works. It's like a alternate, like a uh, when the NBA did the thing where all the jerseys had their nicknames on the back of their jersey.
Yes.
It's like that, you know.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Respect.
So it
Okay.
just worked
Gotcha. And in the kind of segueing into the next thing I wanted to ask you, talking about the producer aspect of your artistry as well. As a producer rapper, what came first for you? Was it rapping or was it producing? And for both, how long have you been doing them?
out. Rapping was definitely first, um, because I've been rapping, like I said, since at least middle school, and you know, I definitely was learning verses well before that, just of songs I love. Just I remember that might even be like late elementary school, I guess, getting really into I think every white kid with a proximity to hip hop has the phase where they get really into like chopper, like fast shit. Like, oh, whoever can go the fastest is obviously the best, right? And like I said, because Busta Rhymes was my first favorite, so you kind of he guides you into that realm. So I remember getting real into that. So rapping was definitely first, and then when you first start, you're just okay. Hey, type beats. We're pulling type beats off YouTube. Well, eventually, when you start really wanting to do it beyond just for something fun to do, um, it's like, okay, this isn't sustainable. So, do I know anyone who makes beats? And I did. I knew my one homie, Follow the Light. It was like, that's just my best friend, just beyond that. That's just the homie. Like, we work together currently. We've worked together in the past. I'm known for getting him jobs, but he was making beats since before we knew each other. And so then I would say, yo, I need a beat like da da da. And he would send me, 5 beats like da 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 da. And then we would hang out. So eventually I would try and make beats on his stuff per his encouragement. And he would kind of, oh, you should do da 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 da. And then, I was like, oh, this is really fun too. And this is when you got writer's block, okay, I can tap into this whole different creative side and really still feel like I'm being productive and creative and scratching that itch without trying to force anything. And then I started doing it on myself, and he's still, man, he is one of the best that no one knows. I don't think anyone other than myself and the Trey have even gotten a beat from him, let alone, which is crazy to me because he's on GarageBand on the iPad, bro, just making the craziest stuff. But I digress. So producing came second, was where I was driving at. But yeah, they're brother and sister now, I guess. Or they got a sibling thing going on now. But rapping was first, to concisely.
Yeah, gotcha. And I'm curious to if there was any particular producers that you were influenced by, or maybe even tried to like emulate your style after when you first started making beats. Because I know for myself, I think I've mentioned in like previous interviews I've done that I was like super influenced by Madlib, and I really tried to like replicate what he was doing in some ways. What was that for you?
No doubt. I mean, Madlib definitely was someone that I've always really revered, I guess. Excuse me. Sorry. Doom is probably like the easiest like knee jerk answer. Um, Sadhu Gold is like one of my favorite producers just ever. Just he's made so much stuff and has been working at such a high level and such a consistent pace for so long. And I would say, depending on, I would say when I first started, I was making doom beats for sure. That was very much that school. And then I would say as I took a step, it as the production became more as I really caught my stride, I would say probably more Sadhu. But I mean, there's a million influences. I love Earl's production. I love what Earl does on the boards. I love Earl as a rapper, but one of my favorite hot takes is I love his production even more. I think he is so underrated as a producer. Um, who I still find myself, man, I really love. Now I haven't known them nearly as long, but Child Actor, I love what they do. Um, they're so great. Uh, I love hearing the beat and not drawing the name. It'll come back to me at some point later. Though I'll stick with those three for now, and at some point later, you're gonna be asking a question. I'm gonna say and I'm gonna cut you off, and then we'll get back to it. But those are my big three answers. And I'll piggyback your Mad Lib because I was definitely Mad Villainy was very important for me.
No, absolutely, and I think those are very solid picks. And then also like switching over to like the rapping side of it. Um, Listening to these three projects in particular that you dropped this year, Head Size Wall Dents from the Tray, and Effects of Fog with Shamar. Something in general that I really admire about your raps is just your ability to portray uh, comfortably on any style of beat that you choose to rap on. Like nothing really ever feels like out of your element. You know what I mean? What is your thought process when picking beats? Do you choose things that you feel complement your raps well, or have you kind of conditioned yourself to adjust your raps to what you're hearing?
I would say, I mean, there's it's definitely a little column A, a little column B because well, the approach for a solo project, right? I would say I decide a um a feeling, I guess, or a mood that I want to evoke, and then it's okay, like how can I approach that and accomplish that, but from different angles? Like, okay, I've hit that mood from over here, but let me put a new lens on it and come from over here. And to even rewind a little, like Creature of Habit, because it was all self-produced, it was like, okay, trying to hit a lot of angles, but for myself, Head Size Wall Dance, I was much more able to do that because I had several producers who I tapped for it. It was easier to say like, or excuse me, like I said, like hit it from different angles. And so with that, the process was very much, yeah, just trying to create a an atmosphere, I guess. With Effects of Fog, Shamar, God bless him, graciously just sent me like a treasure trove of just the craziest shit. And I really I told them that I really just wanted to, like I was treating it like a journal. Like I was just, I'm gonna write a bunch of small things about just the worst days I've had. And so with each one, it was because very often I'll write and then find the beat for it and then tailor that to the beat. So very often it's like, okay, uh, couch, for example. I'm like, okay, I got this day. What did that day sound like? Like as as like abstract and like silly as that sounds, it was like just going through and listening to 12 seconds of 100 things and which of these sounds like that day, and then you find this one and it's like that sounds like that day. Okay, now we're going to tailor, now we're going to really patch this together. With free agency, it's a whole different process because it's not just me anymore, right? It's you got three heads. And so we got a group chat, and what it really is all of us sending in at any given time. One of us are liable to come across a beat, send it in the chat. We all get to it when we want, and when everyone other than the person who sent it hits the little thumbs up react in the iMessage group, it goes in a shared notes page. And then you got a shared notes page of, you know, God knows how many. And then whichever ones everyone or at least two of us write to, okay, then now we're going to whittle it down like that. And so I think what was fun about that is that everyone kind of puts their own little seasoning. And so, especially with free agency, I was, I guess, not necessarily challenged, but asked to kind of step into a couple different roles. And to keep with the basketball analogies, right? It's like being asked to play a couple different positions, right? We're not playing point guard all the game. They might need me to do some wing minutes. Okay, cool. We're gonna do some wing minutes. We're gonna do this for a little bit. And yeah, no, I with that process, there is a different thought process to different styles of beats and different, whether it's the tempo or whether it's the pocket or whether it's just the general sound, because I know there's a lot of like drum and bass style production and there's a few that are more heavy hitting. But that was really our vision, was because this was supposed to be summer. It's a big thing. It fell back. So we really wanted it to be a fun listen more than anything else. And so it was trying to challenge myself, at least. I can't speak for them other than small amount, but really to get out of that comfort zone and lean into just stuff more like that. So I would say the writing process was very similar. It was just being conscious of what I was doing and where it was going. And I definitely had to temper myself at times and say, all right, this is a head-sized wall dents verse. That's not this. We need free agency. Or even in head-sized wall dents, hey, this one's a little bit much. This might be effects of fog and so on and so forth. Even if I didn't know it was effects of fog or free agency yet, even if those were just twinkles in my eye at that point, you know. So it's not one size fits all. It's really knowing what you're doing and approaching the hustler, I guess. I don't know if that answered the question or if I just talked in circles.
No, it absolutely did, and I really appreciate that. For your style sounding as like I said, comfortable and as laid back as it does, how intentional it is in your process of song making in general is really interesting to hear. So it definitely did answer the question, and I appreciate that answer. Getting into free agency, your album with From the Tray, we can kind of just segue into that. Just to kind of contextualize it for the listener, tell me about the formation of the group, who's involved, and how and why you guys came together.
I mean, it really just came together. Well, first, we're all just, we're friends. We all live down here in the general Tampa area. So we were all already knew each other and hung out in a general context already. So um, back in, crazy to say, uh, summer 2022, if I'm not mistaken. This was Breezy and I had already really been getting reps in together because I had loved Breezy's music for the longest, since really before me and him got tight. And we had done a couple joints together for this one EP, Primordial Soup, and a couple other joints here and there sprinkled throughout. And I was working on Creature of Habit, of which I'd already gotten Breezy on twice. And Lars, I had only, he was like a friend of a friend type deal where we knew each other and we had met like maybe 3-4 times, if that. But like he was friends with my friends, I was friends with his friends. But I loved what he was doing, and we had never worked together in an artistic context. And I really wanted him for Creature of Habit, for The Idiot. And he had just gotten out of incarceration, and he had come through to work on Creature of Habit. So he did The Idiot, which was such a fun song because I really just wanted a verse from him. Then we ended up doing the third verse, just going back and forth, and we're like, okay, there's real chemistry here. Like there's a lot to be done here. And so he had this beat from, I don't know how to pronounce the producer name, RND1 or RND1. I don't know how to pronounce it, but great producer. And I had known about him. I always pronounce it RND1 in my head, but I'm mortified that I might be wrong, but in good faith, you know. But he had this beat from him. I didn't even know it was from him actually at the time. He just had this beat, and he showed it to me, and I wrote like a little hook to it. And then maybe a week or 2 weeks later, him and Breezy both came through to work just kind of at the same time, and we all got on that beat. We'd made this track which became Don't Wake the Baby Up. And if I'm not mistaken, I think we made a couple more that day. And then there wasn't necessarily like a light bulb moment, but it was just like, okay, cool, let's do this again. Like, and we get together the next weekend and make a chunk more. And then we get together the next weekend and we make a handful more. And, before you know it, you've got, if it's a month and you're doing 3 a weekend, you got 12 songs. Okay, something's obviously happening here. What are we doing? So then we knew we were doing something. And then there was a little bit more intentionality, but at this point it's still just creating songs. Well, eventually, I can't exactly lay it out, but eventually it was just like, okay, we're doing something here. And I think we have more than one tape. So originally it was like, oh, okay, I remember. So originally it was just going to be a collab tape. And I had said like, well, I really love, like when you got like super groups, but they have like their own group name. And my reference point was Random Acts when Guilty Simpson and Sean Price and Black Milk did the Random Acts tape. Because Lars and I both are huge Sean Price heads too. And there was like a little bit of reluctance to like, okay, like sure, but like let's not force anything. And I just remember for a while we still had the chat, and every once in a while we just send ideas. That seems forced. That's a little bit. And then we're all basketball fans too, if you can possibly guess. And so I just remember one day Lars calls me, I want to say, because, hey, by the way, me and Breezy were together, we figured it out. But from the 3. And, I just started laughing. Like, it was like how it feels so obvious at that point, but we must have kvetched on finding that for way longer than you like to imagine. And so from that point, it's like, okay, now we got a through line, now we got a vision, let's rock. And so then it was like, okay, we had probably 40, 50 songs. And there was this idea of, okay, well, we're from the three, how about 33? Well, then it was like, well, as we whittle it down to 33, we realized we have, it's not the most coherent thing ever. So then we said, well, why don't we do 3 tapes? And each of them kind of have their own feel, like one's up, one's down, and then one is neutral in a sense, to just really sum it to one word each. And so we split it up. And yeah, that was The Same Nothing, 2 Blocks from Hell, and Sacred Feeling. And from that point, then it's a real thing. And then when you already had so many and you cut it down, well, now where do we go from here? Well, like I said, we're already on the open freeway. Let's keep going. And so with those, it was very much targeted and focused, and we're going to hit these 3 moods. So with Free Agency, it was like, okay, let's really widen the, cast a wider net, I guess, and really, you know, just have, I think the main thing I feel when I listen back to Free Agency is just like, okay, you can hear that we're having fun. And so that was a big vision for that. And so it just a series of things kind of naturally falling together. There was never any master plan, but it happened, and it's great. It's been very, very, I can't, once again, I can only speak for myself, but at least for me, very, very reinvigorating. Very, yeah, reinvigorating is actually a perfect word. Yeah, and great.
Yeah, and I do think in terms of this album, like you said, you wanted to make it sound fun. I think that definitely comes across, like the different variety in sounds, like you mentioned, the D&B influence, the other rap stuff that you have going on. Like, it's a very fun listen. Like, it's very upbeat, up tempo. The raps are, very well written and well recorded and well performed. From your perspective, what do you 3 individually, or uniquely rather, bring to the group?
That's a great question. Our favorite, to continue to keep with the basketball analogies, for a while, the question that we kept posing to ourselves is, okay, like, there's been a bunch of big threes. Who are we? And we ended up landing on the Spurs big three, were Duncan, Ginobili, and Tony Parker. And like, I almost like leaving it vacant so that people can do the, like, not tag yourself, but tag who you think's who. But Lars is Duncan, Breezy is Ginobili, I'm Tony Parker. That's really the best way I can put it, right? Is facilitator, the flash, the big fundamental, right? Like, Lars is just one of the best rappers I've ever heard in my life, and just like the phrasing, but just the tight pocket and the concise and the layered double and triple aunties and hyper referential, and just giving you that efficient 20 and 20, and Breezy, just the coolest pockets, bro. Just the craziest swing. Just, you'll have a beat and I want you on here, and you never, like, oh, Breezy's gonna rock this, but you never know how Breezy's gonna rock it, because he is gonna come with a pocket that you've never fathomed. And my favorite example for that is Regardless, which is actually produced by Follow the Light, to bring it all full circle, dude got me to produce. But I couldn't even tell you what time signature that beat is. It's like unfathomable. I think it when he sent it to me, I think it's like a 973 over 73 or something stupid. And I had that beat for like 2, 3 years, and I love that beat, but I just couldn't. Like it just wasn't there for me. And I sent it to Breezy. I swear to God, like under a month, he had this whole song with 2 refrains, 3 verses, and and not only did he find a pocket for it, but he finds a pocket and then puts you where you're nodding to it, and it's like I never heard that in this, and I loved it, but he's the Euro step, and then that leaves me Tony Parker, the floater, the scrappy, the scrappy, the scrappy buckets, I guess, hustle D and the facilitator. I'm gonna set someone up with a good look, and I'm gonna drive and draw the D and then kick and get you the good look. Or if they see you out there, okay, I'll take the easy too. And so yeah, that's once we stumbled on that, that's really the perfect summary. The only added bonus is we always have fun. Lars, we always call him A&R Lars, right? Because he is and this is to his credit. Whenever maybe we're losing the plot a little bit, Lars is gonna say, "Okay, here's our direction. Here's my pitch. Here's where we should be headed." And God bless him, he's got it. He's Popovich too, I guess, in this analogy, right? He's really drawing it up, and he's making sure we execute. And so everybody plays a crucial role, and everybody compliments everybody, but everybody also does something that nobody else can do. That's I think that's why it works.
That may possibly be my favorite answer I've ever gotten on any of these, just in general. Like I really love the basketball analogy with that, and how it like the way now that you said it, it just sounds so perfect. Now looking back on how the album sounds, it's just
I swear it. I swear it.
absolutely. And leading into that, on a grander scale, to what extent has basketball influenced your life? And do you feel there are any particular? I mean, obviously you talked about it a little bit with the group, but do you feel there are any parallels between basketball and rapping in that sense?
Oh, certainly, certainly. So funny enough, so I played basketball and soccer growing up, and so I would say both really influenced my vision. I'll start with basketball, but I will show soccer some love too. But let me charge my answer here. There's with anything, I love finding the strategy to something, or the meta, or really, like I said, whenever I love something, I want to learn everything about it. And when you learn everything about it, you execute better. And so with basketball, as you learn, different set pieces, and you're learning different tells, and especially playing in like a place like Arkansas, where you're really playing against you play against the same people a lot, year after year, and so this guy's game, this guy leads with his right. Okay, I'm gonna make him go left. With rap, right? Like, as you're working with different producers, okay, I know what this producer is going to bring to the table. I need to adapt myself to that, and I need to make sure that I apply myself to that in the best way. In a grander scheme too, beyond just music, learning how to work with people and decenter yourself and see yourself as a part of a system and as a part of something greater, right? Not and admittedly, like I wasn't always perfect at that in the game or in life, right? It's easy to center yourself and to work towards what's best for you, but things work better when you work for what's best for us, whoever us is, whether us is the team, whether us is the community, or whether us is, this thing of ours in music and everyone who does it, or whether us is people, just that in general, right? And so there's a lot. I mean, team sports is so analogous to just everything in a way that people who don't really sink into it don't really see sometimes. And even with soccer, I said it on track at some point, but it's so analytical and so two steps backward, or one step backwards to take two steps forwards. You learn that sometimes forwards motion isn't good motion. Sometimes you need to move backwards and reassess and, okay, I'm not getting through here. Let me pull it back. Let me get a wider view of the subject and reapproach. And I mean, that's in basketball too. I guess if we're really doing that, you drive, okay, we're not getting it. Let's reset and run something new. And so it's, I would say that decentering myself and then learning how to accept something isn't working, taking a step back, and why isn't this working? What can I do to make this work? Or if there's nothing I can do to make this work, what should I do next that will work?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's super apt, and I feel like there's a lot of different ways in which rap and basketball kind of relate to, or rap and sports in general, or kind of relate to each other. Um, and I think the way that you put it there with the community aspect and just making sure that, or the team aspect in the sports, sports analogy, learning those skill sets is like super essential, and it's not really something that you can get in other places outside of like a workplace environment, I guess, but that's kind of a different dynamic.
Hmm.
But I do think that's interesting that you mentioned that.
Oh yeah, not everyone can be the star, So the role players are important too, and a lot of our conversations, at least with Lars and with Breezy, is so much fun remembering all these role players. And oh man, you remember that guy? And those are really those guys that make things work. Even if there's so many examples of teams who put together all these big stars, but they don't have those glue pieces, or they don't have those people who can really keep the wheels turning. And so everybody's got to play their part. Every part is important. Every part is equally important, I should say.
Absolutely. On the subject, do you have a favorite basketball team?
Favorite team?
Yeah.
So growing up, right, my mom's mom, and so my mom's family further. Well, my mom's dad was from Texas, but he didn't care about sports. My mom's mom, my maternal grandma, was from Maine, but general Northeast area, Boston Celtics, Boston Red Sox, Boston Bruins, New England Patriots. And my dad and his whole family was from Dallas. So growing up, I always said I have a West Coast team, I have an East Coast team. It's the Mavericks and it's the Celtics. Well, the first one I kind of fell out of was the Patriots, because at first it's really cool when you're a kid and you're born into the Patriots fan and it's Tom Brady at his peak. And then you're like, all right, cool. But I also like a shock, like, to put it in wrestling, like, you want the swerve sometimes. But Celtics, I still like them, but I just don't like Jason Tatum's game like that. So I've kind of fallen off the wagon with them. So I would say really Mavericks. But then also, since moving to Tampa, I've kind of said well, hey, maybe the Magic can be my East Coast team because it's fun to kind of root for a perpetually shitty or at least middling, because they're not shitty now, but a perpetually middling team. A, because tickets are affordable, right? Orlando's like not even 2 hours away, so it's reasonable to like I will go see like maybe one game a season, like get like mid bowl seats and go see him play like the Hawks or something. Like, okay, we'll go see Magic Hawks. Not expensive, but you get to go see Trey Young. And funny enough, I was there when Bull Bull was playing for him. I saw the Bull Bull's greatest career highlight where he got the block and the block and the keep at one end of the court, took it full court, cross up at half, spin at the top of the paint, went up, yammed it. I was there, and I was a Bull Bull believer, and I still think if he applies and stuff. But I digress. So I've kind of gotten into, okay, cool. I'm gonna kind of ride with the Magic because I don't want to be the Celtics guy, especially they've built. God, I mean, their team, they're the champions, right? And they were awesome. I can't deny the team that they built. And like, same thing, having all these pieces. Derek White being the guy that got him over the hump is awesome. I love Derek White. I love Jaylen Brown. I could do without. I don't really care for Porzingis' game or Jason Tatum's game, but I guess those are my three. Mavericks. I like watching Luka. I love Kyrie. I came up. I was a kid during like peak Kyrie, so anyone my age, I feel like loves Kyrie, regardless of anything he does. He's just fun to watch. But yeah, so I guess those are my three, and then it's like a 1A Mavericks, a new 1B Magic, and then a big gap, and then you got two Celtics because, I still love my grandma, and I can't completely disavow them. It wouldn't be right of me.
Okay, I was gonna say it might have put you in a compromising position with this past finals, but it seems like you kind of drew your line in the sand.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing is, as a kid, I was always like, that would be the perfect finals. And then by the time I got it, I had kind of lost that feeling. I was like, I would have loved this in 2011 or 2012. I would have loved Paul Pierce versus Dirk. Like, Dirk is one of my favorite players ever. Um, and it's like I love that these two teams are playing, but it's like it was never a question who was going to win, unfortunately. And so it's like I love getting it, but it's like the monkey's paw, the like finger curling. Like, okay, I'll give you that matchup, and I'm going to give you just the most lopsided series ever. Like, all right, well, we'll see. It'll happen again in like 40 years, and I'll be like, I remember the last time.
I mean, hey, they got Klay Thompson. They might re-up. You never know.
We can see. See, we got to see. He's old, but it is. I like the addition.
For sure. All right, let me get back on topic. Let me get back.
Yeah, for sure.
There was a particular song on free agency that I wanted to talk about, and that would be Patrice O'Neal. Tell me about the writing process for that song. Did you guys go and just write like two bars at a time off of each other? I know you mentioned before that you guys have like a shared notes app type of thing. So I think you mentioning that kind of triggered that in my brain that maybe that's how you set it up, but maybe it was something different.
Nah, so Patrice O'Neal is actually a very special one because Scully Cipriani, who's on there, also a part of our larger friend group, right? He was in town. He used to live down here. He lives in Detroit now, but he was in town staying with me for he was in town for a couple weeks, I think. And so it was like imperative, like, okay, Scully's in town. We're getting Scully on a joint. We actually got him on two, but one of them was on Sacred Feeling. He was on Vin Diesel, if I'm not mixing them up. Yeah. But it was like, all right, imperative, get Scully on a joint. And for one reason or another, Lars wasn't there the night we made Patrice O'Neill. I think he either had work or he had something going on. He was off in foreign lands that night, and we just had hit the record store earlier that day, and we're just all drinking brews, and I had chopped up that record. Um, Me and Scully were just kind of sitting over the computer, like looking for the loop. We found the loop, and he. I'm trying to remember how that song goes because does it start immediately in the back and forth, or is there a verse at the beginning?
If I
Um,
remember correctly, I think it's just you guys going back and forth every like 2 bars or so, kind of out the
yeah.
gate.
Okay, you're right. So yeah, there's no writing involved at all in those. What it is someone steps up to the mic, says 2 bars, and then it's just a free for all from that point. First one to think of the next two, like whoever's at the mic first, like, oh, I got it. Let me get up there. Let me hit my little 2 bars. So none of that was written down. And anytime you hear us doing that on any of those joints, funny enough to keep with the basketball stuff, right? We call it the 3-man weave when we do that. And it, maybe once in a while, like you got a more wordy answer to something, you write it down just to make sure. But it's all spur of the moment. Someone says a line or someone says 2 lines, and then you're looping that line and the next bar until someone says, "Oh," and they walk over to the mic and they hit theirs. And occasionally you'll hit a point where like 2 people hop up at the same time and it's a race. It's who's at the mic first or who concedes. And yeah, it's just that's I think the most fun we have, honestly, because it's not even. I mean, it's thought, but it's not thought in the same vein at that point. It's really just because you never know which way you're going, and it's like you're really having to think on the fly and come off someone else, and it's real fun when you got yours and you get beaten to the mic, and then they change the rhyme scheme. You're like, all right, cool, 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 cool. Can I keep this line? Can I weasel this line that I had around to fit the rhyme scheme? And I started over, and then because I love when they leave me on a rhyme scheme and then opening the line with that rhyme and then finishing on a new rhyme. But yeah, no, there is no writing for that. It is purely just and yeah, that's it's super fun. I wish anyone who likes that stuff could be a fly on the wall for those experiences because it's a barrel of laughs for real. It's just a lot of times it becomes that trying to crack each other, right? Trying to break each other and it's like it's a friendly competition, right? It's oh you're okay, you got that, watch this. Oh okay, that, well how about this? Yeah, no writing. It's a spiritual thing, I guess.
That's such a beautifully hip hop answer. Like I like that's just so like just get up to the booth, get up to the mic, and whoever has the bars, just you go first. I really love that. Um, we've been going for quite a while, so I do want to get into your other project. Um, I want to talk about head size wall dents. Um, for this project, it did. I want to pull up exactly what you wrote for your bio, or for the bio for head size wall dents. So
I
you
love
said
that.
frustration, that is to say, with stagnation and not being heard, whether it be artistically or socially, or even in a familial sense. It is so difficult for me to communicate with most anyone. I feel my wheels spinning to see no motion. And it feels like with this album, you kind of chose to combat that frustration that you were feeling with just pure undeniability, whether through super engaging and imaginative production choice or catchy hooks or just the infinite bars that you provide on the project. Would you say that's accurate? Do you think there's more to it, or how do you feel about that?
I would say yes, but also on a so yes, absolutely. It was like, okay, I mean that was where I was at. Funny enough, the bio that you bring up um came through I was I let Shamar hear before it was out. And we were just talking about what it sounded like. And I was just trying to explain to him in a general sense, like what I was getting at. And I'd kind of written, not that verbatim, but essentially that in the text. Shamar just said, like, that's that's your bio. That's your pitch. I was like, damn, like you're right. Um, so yeah, I would something especially on, I mean, on everything, but especially on like proper solo projects. I like to think of my writing as I'm trying to do something, I guess, autobiographical, I guess, or really, I value candor. I value candor when I listen to music, and like when I can tell that someone is being honest with themselves, even if maybe the prettier answer isn't that, like, well, this is the right answer, this is the true answer. And so that's something I really tried to do myself. And so I was, I was very frustrated with the myriad of things and with the myriad of experiences I'd had, uh, both artistically and then just socially. You know, I mean, I'm just retelling you what it says there, but I was trying to not only express that, but to try and drive to get to the bottom of that, of like, why am I feeling this way? What if this is just me genuinely feeling this way? What if this is self-inflicted or self-created? What if this is just me being reactionary? And so it was like a sequel to Creature of Habit in a sense, where I was trying to say, here's me, here's at least my interpretation of me. And here's where I'm at right now. And um, in a sense, yeah, I mean, in a roundabout way, it absolutely does combat those feelings too, because then you take a step back. You're like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I'm doing this shit, right? Like, okay, now I have this concrete thing, but also is very much, uh, yeah. I mean, it's like a journal, right? It's where am I at today? What am I feeling? What did I see today, and how did that make me feel? And how can I write that, but also make it in a way that's engaging and enjoyable, I guess, to listen to, or to engage with. Um, and maybe not only summing up my experience, but also broadening the scope a little bit to where maybe it's applicable to someone else's experience too, where they can get something out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then getting into the album art itself, done by Brendan McCaw. Shout out to Brendan McCaw. Absolutely
Huge
beast,
shout outs. Yeah.
beast of an artist, beast of a rapper. Like incredible. Um, what exactly was your vision in collaboration with him for this album art?
So I had seen his work for Obtuse Ways and for the the Sun Mundi Shamar project. And I knew, I kind of just knew, like, okay, that's the guy for this. And essentially, I had contacted him. Uh, I mean, I just reached out and said, hey, like, I love what you do. Um, I love these. I have this thing I'm working on, and I think you could really evoke what I'm trying to say here. And what I did is I sent him the full project. I sent him like a mood board basically, you know, like I just sent him like I think like 12 images, like almost like a Pinterest board. Like here's some things that show where I'm at. Um, you know, I I don't have an explicit vision like with in the past and with stuff I'm working on now. It's like, oh, I want the cover to be this, and who can execute this. With that, it was like I knew what I wanted the cover to evoke, but I didn't know how to evoke it, and I knew that he was capable of that. So yeah, I just sent him the songs and said, I, I trust you to draw what this sounds like to you, or to not to draw, but to visualize what this sounds like to you. And then he ended up sending me back some pictures, like a mood board of sorts, and then kind of a general idea. And I was just like, yes, yes to all of that, yes. And then, oh man, he was so cool and so interesting to work with in that regard because, first of all, I was getting pictures of every step of the way, every damn near like every motion that he made in the process. I was seeing and just seeing it unfold and seeing it go from nothing to all of a sudden this thing, this crazy, unsettling, provocative piece of work. I I couldn't believe it, and you know I got it, and I said, yeah, no, like this is it. This is exactly what I needed, and exactly what I didn't know I needed, I guess. So yeah, no, it was the creative direction was 98% him. That was just here's the songs, here's the mood, go crazy. I trust you. And my trust was validated tenfold.
Absolutely. It is a really beautiful work of art. Again, big shouts to Bernard McCall in that regard.
Huge shout outs.
Um, I'm curious as to what track was maybe the catalyst for the creation of this album in particular, or was the album concept kind of what you were trying to build around in that regard?
So I'm gonna look at the track list so I can really make sure so I can tell you it started with well, I could say it started with two different places. Really, it started with Oh Wow. I had done some work with Dr. Quinn, very dope rapper out of Chicago, and he had done work with Denmark Vesey. And this is 20, either early 2022 or late 2021. And he had done work with Denmark Vesey, and we had just kind of gotten to talking a lot. I had sent him some beats. He had done a verse for me that I still have that track. I just haven't found the right place for it. But yeah, I was just like, you know, you've done a handful of works with this guy. Like, would you, you know, could you, do you know how I can get in touch with him? I loved Denmark Vesey since high school. Like, Sun Go Nova and like the stuff with Cavalier and Quelle, the original We Gonna Need Each Other, and just Martin Lucid Dream, I believe it is, with Think Happy Thoughts. I love that dude, and so I was working with someone who had worked with him, and he hooked me up with the contact, and I was originally working on actually a separate project that ended up being too personal, right? It was like this is great, but like I'm not ready for this yet. I need to come back to this when I feel like I can really do it the way I want. But Oh Wow was the one track where it was like, man, like this is what I want to say. And even Denmark Vesey, such a cool dude, was very like he was like, okay, what are we saying here? What is this about? And I told him the whole vision, and he wrote about that. Like his verse is so awesome. And so I had held that song, and I knew I wanted to do something around that, but less honed in, because that song, well, to I'm being so vague, but instead of beating around the bush, that song and that project was about the passing of my grandmother. And it was just like, I wanted to make sure if I was going to do something about that, I treated it with the right respect. But that song also was applicable in a greater sense, and also still scratched that itch of hitting that note. And so I knew I wanted to do something about, yeah, about frustration, about being perturbed, and about shitty things happening that are entirely out of your control, but that are still directly affecting you, and you just got to kind of roll with the punches. And so I remember then I kind of did, and then I Don't Want to Love You came next, although the shimmy verse came much later. And then those two songs I kind of just had next to each other in this notes page for a while. And one day, and then I had the verse to Red Tide, but not the beat. And one day, like, it just, kind of a light bulb, like, oh, okay, I see the route now. I see what we're doing here. I see the vision. And so then it was just finding the pieces and assembling it, and finding the beats and finding the words. And once it was there, the snowball's going downhill. And it's just getting bigger.
Yeah. Do you remember what were some of the final additions to the project?
Yeah, so No Answers. Uh, I tacked on um, maybe a week or two before submission. Like, if I'm not, that might not have even been on the version I showed Vernon McCaw. I think I actually, wow, like shortly after he started, I was like, oh, by the way, I'm adding that on, and it's going here in the track list. Yeah, so that one was, I just written that verse, and I was like, and I wasn't necessarily writing a verse to add to it, but then I wrote the verse, and then I made the beat, and then I did it, and I said, oh man, no, this has got to go there. And I said, well, can it work? And I found the spot. But yeah, oddly enough, in a sense, that kind of took 3 years to make, I guess, that project, because some of those songs were barrel aging, I guess.
Gotcha. So over what period of time were you making this project in particular?
So, like, really making, like, with a vision, like with the idea and the vision, um, 5 months of proper assembly and like crunch time. But then there was however long of working on it without knowing I was working on it. Just working, and then all of a sudden you've got, because even when you don't, I would say, even if I don't like have okay, I'm working towards this, objectively, if my art is speaking to myself and is being truthful to myself, then whatever I'm creating is going to some degree, all align with each other and come to one common thread and come to a head eventually, because it's all me, and it's all my word. And so it's just finding that thread, and then finding the gaps in the not in the story, but in the arc, and filling that in. So 3 years in a sense, but really knowing I was creating it, 5 months, maybe 6 months. Not counting post production and the cover art process and all that.
One track in particular that I'm like super super fascinated with, because for me, I'm someone that's like really interested in people that do things um, that are kind of with tradition of hip hop in certain ways. And I feel like something that you did with No Major Thing, having Blast 89 um, on the hook for that song, just having a male singer on a rap song. I feel like that's just something that's like very like not as common these days, especially for like a non-pop song, if that makes sense. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what made you decide on getting him for that song, and how did that come about?
So when I first found Gloss, and a million shout outs to him as well. Check out the This Is Fine series for whoever's listening who hasn't heard it. Um, they're both tapes that I've fully produced for him, and there will be a This Is Fine 3. But when I first found him, it was through Like Walking on Water, entirely produced by Doofus. And tremendous rapper. Don't let this statement take away from his ability as a rapper, because he's incredible. But just the craziest vocal chops. And what really sets that project apart, and that is one of my favorite projects ever, period. Like, not of just my friends, but just period. Like, I love that project. Like, I listen to that all the time. And what makes it so great is that he hits how to construct a song, and he's got these refrains and these hooks, and they're not just like, not that there's anything wrong with just rapper hooks where the rapper is singing and it's earnest even if they can't really sing, because I love that too. But he can sing, and he knows how to write a hook, and it's like earworms that stick with you. What does he say? Uh, oh, Jesus take the wheel, but he must be drunk, or she must be drunk. Like, I think that, well, he's just got this stuff that just burrows in you. And that was really what I thought was so incredible about him at first, is like, oh wow, like this duality of this hard hitting verse, and then he's gonna come back and hit you with the hook too, and he's gonna and both at such a high level. And so when I got that beat from Doofus, I knew, like, I pretty much immediately knew, like, oh, this needs a hook. And I kind of hummed out a melody, but I was like, like, I'm not getting this right. And it's like, oh, dude, like, the answer's right in front of you. Like, Doofus beat. This is, when I was making this joint, it was, I think we were working on This Is Fine too. And so we were already both in go mode. So I just hit him up. Yo, like, I got this Doofus beat. I'm getting on. I got the verses. I need a hook. I got kind of a general vibe, but if you can flesh it out, and he nailed it. So it was just, there was never really a question of like who's or what's going to fill that space. And then the second that I started thinking about who, there was never really a question of who. It just made sense. I found him and fell in love with what he does through him on Doofus beats. I've got this Doofus beat. Let me connect these dots. Like, let me kind of make myself a part of that lore, I guess, in a sense, right?
Gotcha. Yeah, and I feel like that was a very like perfectly placed addition to that track. I think he tied it together super well. Um, My last question on this album in particular, and for me, it's probably like the most interesting question for me. How and what was your pitch to Kofi Kingston to get him to be in the New Swords video?
Oh, bro, you're gonna get me in trouble. Okay, I'm uh I'm gonna tell this story at risk of losing the New Swords video because I don't think it'll get to the people who can make me lose the video.
We can cut this out if you feel like it might risk that, because I wouldn't want to risk that for you, but I would love to hear just from yourself.
I'm gonna tell the story and then I'll let you take the discretion because I mean, I put the video out, right? So what had happened? The Royal Rumble was in St. Petersburg, Royal Rumble 2024, and I was going. I went with my brother. We've been wrestling fan. I've been a wrestling fan my whole life. My dad in Texas. He was at the Texas Dome when Kerry Von Erich beat Ric Flair for the NWA Championship. Like it's so yeah. So like the Royal Rumble came to town. It was like, oh, like this is you know this is the chance to go to the Royal Rumble. We're going to the Royal Rumble. And I saved. I emptied out some savings to go, but me and my brother and my girl went. Oh yeah, so the day before, I was already, or no, pardon me. The weekend after, I was shooting the video for New Swords. Well, the day before the Royal, no, not the day before. I'm sorry, the morning of the Royal Rumble. Last correction. The day before the Royal Rumble, I was driving home from work and I drove past a Cricket wireless truck and they had like a electronic screen on the side of the truck and it said like, come meet Kofi Kingston live at this Cricket wireless, like in Tampa, right? Like, cause WWE, I guess, has a deal with Cricket wireless. And it was like free entry, like just come meet Kofi Kingston, And I texted Dewey Loud, the videographer. Big shout out to Dewey Loud, great videographer. Also did the Taxi Driver video for Friendly 3. But oh man, my dog's barking. But so I texted him and I was like, hey, I got a crazy pitch. Tell me if you're cool with it. If not, I understand. But I'm trying to go meet Kofi Kingston tomorrow regardless. But I feel like if I pitched it to him at this thing, I feel like he would be down to like just say the line, right, for the hook. And he wasn't like a fan to the degree of me, but he like knew who Kofi Kingston was. He had watched Skid. Funny enough, he had actually, in the Total Divas era, they had tried to get the Usos to be rappers for a minute, and he said he actually was assistant director on a music video for them during that era that's since been scrubbed from the internet because he had a friend who was supposed to do the job and got sick and like put in a word for him. Total different sidebar, but so he's like, yeah, like let's do it. So I got there an hour before doors. And I didn't think, like, I hadn't seen anything about it online. I'm thinking, like, oh, man, like, I got this. I caught this. So I get there. It's like a strip mall. Like, like Cricket Wireless at the corner, Chinese restaurant, antique shop, Save Mart, corner, or not corner store, like Walgreens type, not Walgreens, but one of those type deals. Pharmacy store, and then like a bunch of other shit around the corner. Line all the way down, all the stores curving all the way down here. And I had driven, like, it wasn't near me. It was 45 minutes. So I was like, well, I'm here. So I get there, I hop in line. I told him, like, hey, I'll get there early to like get a place in line and you like meet me like near time doors. So he shows up and I'm just like, I kind of text him like, yo, there's more of a line than I thought. He's like, well, I'm already halfway there. Like, fuck it, like let's do this. So he gets there, and we stood in line, and it was hot as fuck. I'm doing a lot of world building here, but I'm just recounting the day. So we stood in line for a minute, but they kept the line moving pretty quick because basically what they're doing is you get in, you get one autograph, you get your pictures, you get like, the handshake, the hug, the love what you do, see ya. Next, I'll say it was very like, and so as we're realizing how fast it's moving, I'm like, okay, hold on, you keep placing line. I go and I'm like looking through the window, seeing how they're running shit. And so I'm like, okay, listen, this is going to be like guerrilla, right? So I'm going to get up there. As soon as I start walking up, camera's rolling, right? We're getting everything. I'm going to get up there, we're going to get the handshake. I'm going to immediately just go into the pitch. Like, hey, listen, we're doing this. I need you to say this. Are you down? So we get in there, do exactly that. And he's super nice. Exactly what you expect from Kofi Kingston. Nicest dude ever. And he's like, yeah, like for sure. Like that's like that. Like he was like appreciative. Like, thank you for thinking of me for this. That's so cool. Let's do it. And he says the line and he like laughs about it. And I get my pictures. I got the pictures. I get my pictures. Dap him up one more time. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I didn't have anything for him to sign, so he signed a little picture of him with the Cricket Wireless logo. And as I'm walking out, Dewey walks out with the camera. And as I'm walking out, like 4 dudes in like the suits and the sunglasses, like step in front of the door and pull me to the corner of the Cricket Wireless. And they say, so what was that footage for? And, and I'm like still coasting off the high. So I'm saying too much. I'm like, oh, it's for a music video. And they go, well, you're probably going to have to delete that footage. There's hoops to jump through because they're all licensed. These people are all licensed. You can't really use their likeness to profit off it. I'm like, well, I am not going to profit off this. Let me tell you that. Like, I'm not making shit off this. Like, that's not of any concern. I cannot monetize the video. I probably won't monetize the video. And they're like, well, listen, we'll get you in touch with someone to talk to. We just need your name, number, email, and the YouTube channel that's going on. So I'm like, well, I don't have a YouTube channel. This is just like, because now I realize what type of time I want. So I'm like, I don't have a YouTube channel. Like, this is just like a person, like a passion project. They're like, all right, well, can we get name, email, phone number so we can contact you? Or they're like, oh, you don't have any social media? I'm like, nah, man, I'm not about that shit. Like, I don't do social media. And so you need name, phone number, email, fake name, fake phone number, fake email. Thank you so much. Please get in touch with me. I'd love to get this rolling. Haven't heard, haven't heard. I'm like, they're going to have to, it's not like they can search. You can't search someone's name and find their face yet. And it's not like it's really reaching. So like, it reached who it needed to reach. And it was, I got a bunch of messages like, what? And that's exactly what I wanted. It's a cameo, right? It's just like something funny you throw it at the beginning of the video. But yeah, that's the story. I'm not really concerned because I don't think I'm interfering with their profit margin. They're making buku bucks hand over fist. But that was my thing. It's like, I'm not making money off this. Who do you think I am? But that's the story. Yeah. He was super cool about it. It was really funny how eager he was, and then immediately, like, the suits jumping in.
Yeah.
It felt punk rock.
Yeah, to be expected with the Fed, right?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. These are our property. He's licensed.
Yeah, so super. That's a hilarious story, and I really love that. I'll decide it while editing if I'll keep that in or not, just for the sake of keeping the video up. because I do. It is just a dope video. Just talking about another question I had about the video itself and just your process for music videos in general. Well, what would the process for your music videos be? Like, what was the process, um, or the conceptualization of some of your music videos, and how do you collaborate with the directors, um, to get what you're looking for?
So collaborate with the directors is the key thing there because it's dependent on the director for sure. Like with Dewey, who did New Swords, he did Taxi Driver, and he's done a couple for me in the past with like Lucy's that are still out there. Like one I seen like Lone Sword beat, and one I Come in Peace, which was a Doofus beat. Early, like when I was still kind of, they're cool for what they are, but this was before I really caught my stride. But I digress. With him, he is very, very like, he comes in with the vision. So with him, I'm always ready to really take my hands off the wheel and trust him to put something together. And Taxi Driver, I think, was the coolest experience of that because he came with shots, like little drawings, you know, of shots he wanted to execute and was really directing and like, all right, like if you've seen, have you seen the Taxi Driver video?
I have not.
So there's like one shot where it's like Lars and I like doing a collar and elbow tie up, right? And like jostling for position. And like he had that vision in his head. And then there's a shot where Lars has me like pinned on the ground, like holding my head in the dirt. And I'm like rapping as he's holding my head down. And he had like a little like this is what I want. These are the shots I want. This is the like story, the through line throughout the video, so on and so forth. And so with him, I'm always ready to throw my hands up and trust in his vision because it always just comes out so great. With Composer, who did like the parkour video, who did the guessing game video and the sign-on bonus, not sign-on bonus, but the sign-on, that video. And a million others, Hair in the Wind with me and Breezy, The Gospel. He's also just a part of that further friend group, me, him, Breezy, Scully, so on and so forth. And so with him, it's very much just like we're all hanging out, right? And he's just capturing that. He's just capturing us hanging out. And a couple performance shots along the way, but it's with shooting with him, it's very much just lax and just be yourself and have fun, and that's going to show in the video. With Imani Black, who did the video for Chord Derangements, it was very much like, because we had never worked together, I had known of him and we had kind of known of each other, but we had never even like met prior to shooting that video. So with that one, it was very much like kind of a meeting of the minds where I'm like, okay, here's kind of where I'm going with it. And he's like, okay, here's where I could take that. And I kind of had locations marked. And I had more locations than we needed. And then he said, let's hit that one, let's skip that one. Let's hit that one, let's skip that one. And then, funny enough, the shot with my dog in that video, Olive, as we're shooting the video, we're like, we need one more location. And I was like, well, you know, I've always kind of wanted to do the shot with the dog. And it was funny because she's typically kind of weird about strangers. So you're thinking you're going to get the shot. You know the picture where the dude's like holding the dog up by the collar and they're like, he's trying so hard to make that motherfucker look vicious. That's how I felt because I was expecting her, because like she hates Lars. Like every time Lars is around, like damn near frothing at the mouth, right? So I'm like, oh, Imani, like new person, you know, and then he comes around, she's being sweet as pie. And so I'm like, well, let's get the shot. And she just sat next to me and it looked cool too. But that shot wasn't planned by either of us. It was just like, well, we need one more location. Let's hit this. And then she was being sweet as pie, which can't be mad at her for it. Because I'm like, well, this is good behavior. But it's like, I was counting on the bad behavior, kind of. Like, so it's dependent on every videographer. But I really just like with Burnham McCon with the cover art, when I'm collaborating with someone else, I really like to let their vision show its face and let it, because my vision is already there with the music, and I'll chime in throughout the process. Hey, this might look cool. Hey, have you thought about this? And sometimes that makes it through, sometimes it doesn't. But I really like to let them do what they feel comfortable with, because I think that's going to produce the best video, is them doing something that they love and that they feel passionate about, most of all.
For sure. And I think that level of collaboration, kind of bringing it full circle with the basketball team thing. I think that level of collaboration has served you for like even just enhancing the art that you're already putting out, like in terms of the artwork and the music videos. Like you're really doing a good job of world building the music that you're making in a sense.
Thank you.
So that
Thank
way, what we're hearing is really matching what we're seeing, or what we're seeing is matching what we're hearing, rather. And I really appreciate that about your artistry. As far as collaborations go, the last project that we were going to talk about being Effects of Fog with Shamar. Production wise, this feels like a bit of a departure from some of what you were rapping on on other projects this year. It presents a little bit more time, less like structure wise, and somehow you find, like I said earlier, a very comfortable pocket on any given loop that's presented to you. Stylistically, how important is it to you to maintain a familiar flow throughout your even discography, and how difficult was it to do so on this project, if at all?
So I definitely, and I think this is true for most people. I think because, like I mentioned before, not always, but I would say the majority of the time I write on the beat, tailor the verse to the beat. I don't write to a beat. I can, and I'll do it like if someone wants me on something and they present the beat to me, but typically that's just where I work best. And so in making Effects of Fog, I really wanted to put, that structure in the backseat in favor of really like saying every word I wanted to say and building a scene. Because that's something that I've always really loved in music. Or in music, or in writing, in any kind of writing, in literature, when someone can build it, can lay words out and you see it in your head. That's so cool to me. Whether it's like a Woods, or like a Bukowski, right? Or Bukowski is a good one. I think that's such a cool skill to have. Or like a Cormac McCarthy, that was the other name I was struggling with. That's very cool to me. And so I always kind of try to do that to some degree, but typically on a standard pocket, you got to sacrifice that. And that's the key thing. It's like you're writing and then you got the beat and it's okay. What do I have to cut to have this make sense here? So with the Shamar production, there's very much like, okay, what's going to give me as much space and as much freedom to not shave myself down and really be as intentional as possible with my word. And even the contractions mean something, right? Even the ands and the buts, right? Like that's there because it's supposed to be there. And so it was a different process, but it was never really a challenge. In fact, it was maybe the least challenged I've felt with writing, because it was so free and it was so freeing in a sense. It was like getting to be so honest was like liberating. And just getting to tackle, because like I said, my vision was, I'm going to write all the worst days I've had. Maybe not all the worst, but a collection of some of the worst days I've had. And so it was like therapy, for real. It was like working through all these little segments, finding a through line. And the main thing with it too is it's chronological. All those songs are assembled in chronological order of the order those days happen. And so it was a journal. It was not even really a thing until it was a thing. I just told him like, hey, like, you know, I'm dealing with some stuff and it's bringing up some past stuff. Can I talk about it on these? And then all of a sudden there was a vision. And then it was like, I don't know, we just both thought it would be cool to just kind of, because it was so personal, it didn't feel right to have like a grand rollout and like really put a lot of emphasis behind it, or like to put it on streaming and to do all this. It really felt like an if you know, you know type thing. Like I don't need everyone hearing that. I think if you take the time to seek that out and to go hear that, then you must care enough to then be in a position to really take that in and see where I'm coming from and be ready to hear that, because it's personal. Like, I mean, you hear it on there. I didn't have to, but I censored names. Like, I wasn't going for anything other than honesty. So it was, yeah, I feel comfortable saying it's probably the easiest creation I've had.
Interesting. I now that you say it in the way that you put it, I think that makes a lot of sense because kind of with Shamar's production, um, big shout out to Shamar as always. With Shamar's production, it's very similar to their rapping style in the sense of that it's like they give space to say all of the word. Like they're not gonna sacrifice what they need to say to for the sake of structure, if that makes sense. And I feel like
Mm.
that's very also relevant in his in the beat making that they produce. So I think it makes sense why you say that it was the most freeing and the easiest process um, in terms of your writing. And then also for this project, obviously as we just talked about how good of a producer Shamar is, but what exactly was it about their production that made you want to put a project together? And what of these songs was the first to do so?
Let me look at the thread, because I can tell you exactly. Because if I can see which one I made first, it'll reel me in a little bit. I could have figured it out on my own, but okay, yeah. So it started with Appointment. Actually, Appointment and Saturday I made on the same day. And basically, Shamar. Well, I don't know. See, I hate blowing up Shamar's spot, so I don't know what I'm supposed to say about the work we're doing and what I'm not. But
I'll let you
without,
talk if necessary.
yeah, without being too specific, I was sending Shamar some beats, and so it was like, well, hey, you're sending me some beats. Let me send you some beats. Here's the Google Drive. And originally it was like one that we had pulled from the 3 yet to come, but coming song is done. So good. So good. It's one of the best songs we've done. Such a cool beat. But as I'm going through this Google Drive, I mean, there were some more traditionally structured joints, but it was very much like, yeah, like there's a lot of space to play here. And so I was just having a rough go of it. And I was writing stuff out, not necessarily even in the intent of ever being spoken aloud, but just writing stuff out, just trying to, okay, I have these thoughts rattling around. Let me put them down so that they exist in the physical and not up here. And I kind of just had the idea to do it. And so I like texted him the beat to Appointment, like, hey, you mind? Has anyone claimed this? No. Okay. I get it off my chest. And I was like, man, this is really cool. And what was I was listening to a lot of Serengeti at the time, a lot of the Kenny Dennis joints, and he does a lot of the same thing where it's very loose, and rather than adhering, like he'll come back to the pocket, and there is a pocket there, but it's very loose, more in the sense of forming this building this world, right, and expanding on this character. You know the Kenny Dennis tapes
I'm
where
familiar.
it's very cool because basically he has invented this character and he has all these tapes where he is rapping as this character, Kenny Dennis, from the perspective of this guy, Kenny Dennis, is like middle aged Chicagoite who just loves, loves his wife, loves watching the Bears, loves grilling, you know what I mean? And then he did this other one all produced by Kenny Seagal called Ajay, and this one is this other character Ajay, and he's this sneaker collector. Da, da, da. And so it's anyway. So I was listening to a lot of that, and a lot of times he kind of puts that in the backseat to really build this character, and because he's rapping as if he is this character, he's not rapping as in the pocket as he might on something as just Serengeti. He's rapping like it's stream of consciousness and like he's just talking as the character, and he'll like keep like coming back to lines because sometimes people do that when they're talking. They say the same thing twice. That's how people talk. And I said, I want to do something that is just I'm presenting this information the way I would present this information if I was telling you this story. And like because when we speak, we have a natural cadence and we have a natural flow. Maybe some more than others, but especially people who are artistically inclined, there's an inherent like observable pattern to the way people speak. And so I wanted to really lean into that. And Shamar's beats just gave me the opportunity to do that. And so Appointment was really cool. So then I wrote down the stuff for Saturday because those two were closely linked events. And I said, hey, what about this one? So I did the two and I sent them to Shamar. Oh, this is so cool. Da, da. And then Call, I did the next day. I said, well, I got one more for you. And then I gave it a couple weeks. And then as we talked about it, we realized like, oh, this could really be like something. And so then I did Char, Couch, and Fog all on the same day. And then from there, then it was a thing. And then it was just tacked on Melt. Funny enough, I did all of those in April. And I did Melt in July, right before it came out. Like, it was like, hold on, because Melt is the one where it's a little bit less story and more just like a bow on it, kind of. And, but yeah, no, I was having a rough go of it. Shamar's beats were just what I needed in that moment to get that off my chest and to really process. And it was a healing process for real, as cliche as it sounds. And it's cliche for a reason, right? Because this is therapy to a lot of people, and it's healing. So yeah, they were just perfect for what they needed to be in that moment.
Absolutely. I think that's a really beautiful thing. Um, when you can have production be so evoking to what you're feeling and have it connect so closely, especially when you're trying to get certain things off your chest. I think that's always nice, nice to hear.
Oh, they're so textured; they make you feel regardless, and so yeah, it just made sense.
100%, 100%. Um, with Effects of Fog being the name of the project, it feels kind of apt in certain moments on the record because it feels a little disorienting at times from a production standpoint, even from a rapping standpoint. Tell me about the significance of that title for you and why it was so applicable for this project in particular.
Well, like I said, I was having a rough go of it, and kind of how I had verbalized that is, hey, I'm kind of in a fog right now. these are the effects of the fog. Like simple as like uh, there's no real deep elaboration on it. It's just like this is you know this is where I'm at. This is what I'm experiencing, and this is the effects of what I'm experiencing right now. Um, because I've always liked that. Like instead of saying, "Hey, I'm down right now," I've always liked referring to it as a fog because that's always how it feels. I think things are a little bit murky. Not everything isn't quite as clear. Um, yeah. No big answer for that one, unfortunately. Simple as.
I know that's more than okay. I think having things be as simple as that, um, very straight to the point, and I think that like I mentioned, comes across in the record whenever you're listening to it. Um, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I do want to ask about what is moving you artistically these days, whether it be musically, writing, poems, movies, whatever. Like what is has recently been catching your eye or your ear?
Well, as far as from a consumption standpoint, I've been listening. I've been listening to the new Ka record a lot. Um, it's incredible if you could ever expect anything else from an artist like Ka. Um, and I've just been I haven't been listening to that much music outside of that. I've been listening to stuff here and there. Um, I'll always listen to like Sean Price or there's this dude Jesse Wells who's like a folk guy who kept showing up on my Instagram reels, and then actually ended up releasing an album, and then he actually had another album, and I've been listening to that a lot. He's really cool. Um, listening to a lot of listening to what else was I listening to? I gotta look at the new Money for Water is awesome with a lot of Shamar production. So I've been listening to that all the time. And then
Give enough praise to Money for Water for that project.
oh,
Absolutely stellar.
I can't wait for because it feels inevitable that eventually our paths will cross, and I will give them the utmost love. Um, and the new Blue album, the new Blue in Exile album, and I have to reel it back when you're talking about influences. Blue is so crucial to me. Below the Heavens is here's my hot take. Below the Heavens is the best rap album ever. It's perfect. But I've been listening to that record a lot, and then a lot of Primus. I'm always listening to a lot of Primus. Um, Beyond that, I've been playing a lot of like board games recently. I've within the past like 6 months learned how to play chess. So I've been playing a lot of chess, and I've my girlfriend's friend put us onto this game called Unmatched. It's like a hard combat kind of deal, and I'm ashamed at how much time I've been playing that every day after work for like 3 hours. Like me and my girlfriend played for like 2 hours before I got on the phone with you, just like head to head at the table. Um, and then yeah, I mean I've been doing a lot of that, and then just creating. I'm working on a joint with Mike Digi right now, Michael Digital. And that was one of those things where he just reached out and dug what I was doing. I obviously dug what he's doing. I've been digging it. He sent me a pack, and a couple turned a vision, and that'll get expounded on more as it comes to fruition. But I'll say it's definitely it's more than just a embryo right now. It's a thing. And I've got a full tape done, produced by Follow the Light, who I mentioned a couple times earlier, my good friend. That I'll drop the title. It's not an official announcement, but that's going to be called Head Creeps. And I don't know when that's coming because I want to. That'll be like my next, like in the vein of a Sized Wall Dents. that's just waiting on a couple little hinges. And then I think me and From the Three have have two more, at least one more, and probably two more in the works. I mean, definitely two more. I just don't know the timeline per se. I could say the titles, but I'll hold on to them because I want everyone's blessing. But I'll share with you the title because you'll think it's mad cool. You'll particularly appreciate it. Um, and then yeah, beyond that, always reading. I just reread Blood Meridian. That's why the Cormac McCarthy love came up. Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, I haven't. Hurricane just came through, so I'm in recalibration mode right now. But yeah, I think that sums up my consumption and my output at the moment, at least that I can think of.
Gotcha. Well, for one, I hope you're staying safe out there. I know it's getting pretty bad, the hurricane season and everything. So I hope you're staying safe and all that. But I appreciate you doing this interview. Like this was a really fun conversation for me. Um, getting to talk about all the music that you released so far this year, touching on some basketball things is always cool. Yeah, I really appreciate this conversation and taking the time out.
Oh yeah, man, I appreciate you being open to talking to me. Let alone, sorry it went nuclear. I can be long winded, so I appreciate you having the space to listen to me ramble. And anytime in the future, on or off the record, like I'm always down to chop it up. It's been really enjoyable for me too. And it's validating to have someone want to hear what you have to say, especially about you know creation. It's cool. So I really appreciate it more than I can say.
Absolutely. Goal is always to give the artist a platform to, talk about something stuff that they enjoy, stuff that they make, in a way that's not, uh, perverse or surface level or like boring. So,
Right.
I always appreciate when people, have long answers to things because it means that, it's something that they're actually passionate about.
No, absolutely. I I got plenty of that to go around.
For sure. And again, thank you for coming on here. This has been another of the anti interviews, still without a name. Help us out with the name if you can. Um, but yeah, this has been another edition, and we will catch you on the next one.